Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Friday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I was thinking how to start this video, and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say this. I found this information, these articles. I found them later yesterday, and I'm going to say this. I am excited to talk about this subject today, what I'm going to talk about. Don't take that the wrong way. Honestly, the reason I'm excited about this is I've always found this subject interesting. I think there's a lot of psychology. I think a lot of the way the world, a lot of things that go on in the entire world, unfortunately, revolve around this. And I'm going to refer to this just as simply, because we all know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to say size. I'm just going to be, because I have to watch what I say here. Because I got flagged about a month ago for some of the stuff I talked about. So I'm just going to refer to this as size. I could be talking about height. I could be talking about somebody's height. I could be talking about their hand size. I could be talking about their size 15 sneakers, or I could be talking about something else. Okay, the links will be down below. I came across this in BRITNEY SPEAR'S upcoming book, The Woman in Me. I have to read this book. Now, there's no doubt I'm going to read this book. I came across another supposed excerpt. I do some background. I do a little homework on this just to make sure. There's not a whole lot. I'm surprised there's not more articles on this supposed excerpt from this what I'm going to talk about in the book. So I was a little hesitant to talk about this yesterday until I looked into it further to make sure it wasn't just like just somebody making something up. But I don't now I don't think it is, because BRITNEY has talked about this before. Like I said, I've learned a lot more about BRITNEY than I ever thought I would ever know from doing these videos, because a lot of people are interested and I get a lot of views. Okay, so the link will be down below, and apparently in the upcoming book, BRITNEY talks about Justin Timberlake, and she talks about one of the first times. Apparently, her very first time. This is what I'm assuming here from the way this sounds. Her very first time was with Justin Timberlake. That's what it sounds like. It doesn't actually say that in this article. And like I said, I'll have the link to the actual Twitter post, this from where the excerpt from this book came out. And this is what this is the excerpt from the book. She's saying this is what she said to Justin as they were initiating their very first time. She said, "Okay, I'm ready. Put it in." And he replied, "It's already in." And then she said, "My world collapsed." Her world just collapsed when he said, "It's already in." Okay, so I can't help laughing. I know it's not right that I find this amusing. Like I said, and there's articles down below that talk about this. I'm surprised there's not more. Okay, so I found some other articles. Apparently, she has talked about this before. I think in 2016 she brought this up too. I'll see if I can find that link down below. But in an interview on MTV in 2003, 20 years ago, apparently she was on MTV, and this was a big story back then. Link to this will be down below. Apparently she was on an interview on MTV, and she made a hand gesture talking about Justin Timberlake. And she was kind of insinuating that he has nothing to boast about. And this was 20 years ago. So this is some of the background that I checked, that this is probably true. And here's the thing about 20 years ago. Somehow Justin's grandmother, what's her name? Sadie Bomar. She was 70 back then, so she's 90 now. So I hope Sadie is I hope she's still here and healthy and everything. And this is nothing against Justin's grandmother, but she chimed in and she defended. This is so sad, man. This is even worse. This is even worse than women going around and talking about your small size. When your grandmother, this guy, I can't imagine that your grandmother jumps in and tries to defend your size. Oh my God, that's got to be the. I don't know if I'd ever be able to show my face in public again. And it's not just your grandmother's defending your size, but it's the fact that your grandmother's talking about, Okay, so apparently Justin's grandmother said, "I helped raise him." And I can assure you that there's nothing wrong with him physically. Well, I'm sure there is nothing wrong with him physically. We're just saying that when it comes to size, he's probably on the smaller end of the scale. I've talked about this before. I'm going to tell you guys a few of my opinions on this. I'm not here to brag. I'm not. Here's one thing I've discovered. I'm going to turn 58 in a couple of years. A couple months, I'm sorry. And one thing I've discovered is there's always going to be somebody smarter than me. There's always going to be somebody richer than me. There's always going to be somebody bigger than me. And it's part of life. Back when I was younger, in the teen years, my best friends when I was a teen, we all got firsthand views. We weren't very modest back then. And we all saw, like in the locker room and otherwise, during parties and stuff like that, we all saw each other's equipment. So we all knew where we were ranked on the equipment scale. And I was at the top. I'll just say that. That's honest. There was one of my friends that would never, ever show anything. Like he'd go in the shower with his bathing suit on. And to this day, it's still a mystery. We know the rest of us had our thoughts on this, that he was hideous. Maybe he was hideously deformed. Maybe he was just incredibly embarrassingly large or incredibly embarrassingly small. But he would go to any lengths. He just would not. There was no way that anybody was ever going to see what. And the funny thing is, this is one of my first girlfriends. In high school. That's me. I'll cover her face. That's me right there. And I dated her all through high school. I took her to the prom. And we broke up for a little while. She dated the captain. I talked about this in another video. She dated the captain of the football team, whom I got in a fist fight with. And she only went out with him for 2 or 3 months. And she came back to me. And she did one of these. She informed me that he wasn't all that big. And the funny thing is, the friend of mine that I talk about that never hid his stuff no matter what, he is now married to her and has children with her. So she knows the truth. I'd love to ask her, because I'm still wondering, why he would never let the rest of us know. As guys get older, if I hear a guy now like over 25 talk about, brag about their size, I think they're lying. Because, once you get older, you become more, it's just, at least around the guys that I hang out with, it's awkward. A guy, I'm not talking about kidding around. Like, hey, you got a lot of this or that for saying that, or, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about guys that would actually say, hey, she loved my this or that, guys that brag. And I think as men get older, it's awkward when you hear another guy say that, because women talk. Women do talk about this. This is one thing I found too. I've said this before. I've been dating since I was 14. I'm going to be 58. So we're talking 44. I've been dating for 44 years. I was never married, never had kids. So we're talking maybe two girls I've been with per year. But that's not quite right. Back when I was younger, it was more like 1 per month I dated. Now that I'm older, it's only been 2 in the last 17 years. And one thing I discovered is women, I know for a fact that women talk. Women talk about this all the time. They might say they don't talk about it, but they do talk about it. Whenever I started dating a woman or a girl back when I was younger, they already knew. I think they already knew my physical measurements just from other girls that... Girls talk. They do. If they say they don't, they're not being, I don't think they're being, forgive me for this, but I don't think they're being truthful. If they say size doesn't matter, I'm sure there's some women that say size doesn't matter. Physically, I don't know. I think girth matters more than anything else. I think size does matter to a large extent, especially even just aesthetically. I think men are supposed to be tall, large, and if you're not, it's just not aesthetically. I think women are just drawn to bigger guys, or to bigger all over guys. I do. I think there comes a limit though, when a guy gets over a certain size, that it becomes scary or uncomfortable. But that's not to say that a woman still wouldn't want to go out with that guy, even if it was scary or uncomfortable for her, just to say that she dated. I don't know. I'm guessing there. Okay, let's see some some other stuff I wanted to talk about. One thing I do notice, like I said, I have size 15 feet, and there's studies that say that feet don't, a lot of studies say feet, there's nothing that can foretell a man's size. Hand size. I have artistic hands. I think that because I have long, skinny fingers. Don't assume anything there. And but I have incredibly large freaking feet. I have a hard time. My feet are so big. I drive a Honda Fit. My feet can barely fit under the dashboard. I've almost gotten accidents because my feet get caught up under the dashboard when I'm hitting the gas and brake. And I almost get in accidents because my feet are so big. And I'll say this. Like I said, I'm going to be 58 years old, and I cannot, I've countless times I've been walking in stores or malls, and I catch women scoping out the package or scoping out, especially the feet, because I think my feet stick out. Honestly, I feel like I have clown feet sometimes. I feel awkward. But I see, I'm walking towards a woman, and this has happened for 30, 40, 50, since I was a teenager. And I'm walking towards them in a mall or store, and I see, they're not looking at my face, they're looking down. And then I see them look up at my eyes, and then I see them smile, and then I see them glance down again and look back up at my eyes and smile. And this has happened time after time after time. And I think, I just have to say this, I also think that size is the great equalizer, because this is what I believe too. All the money in the world can't buy, either you have this or you don't. Either you're an adequate or above adequate size and are confident and happy with what you have, or you don't. You could be Elon Musk, and all the money in the world will not buy a more satisfactory package. There's been many times I was out riding my bike, and a Mercedes almost runs me over, or you get a look from somebody in a Corvette or whatever, and I just have to laugh because I'm like, well, he could have all the money in the world and be driving a Mercedes, but there's just one thing that he might not have that I do, and that's always made me feel good. This is another thing too. I think a lot of the racism and a lot of the wars that have gone in the world go back to this, to go back to men and their insecurity about their size, without a doubt. I think I believe that a huge part of racism, it goes back to this. I don't think anybody will admit to that, but I think that's what it goes back to. That men are afraid that others more equipped men they're even more than that. They're afraid that there are women, that the women that they're dating, their wives or their girlfriends are secretly drawn to men, other men. And this is that's my serious theory on this. I think unfortunately, I think a lot of the wars and anger and violence and hatred comes from men's insecurity. I really do. Specifically from men that are insecure about their size. I really believe that. I could talk about this for hours. And it's not because I'm bragging or anything like that. I just psychologically, I find it amazing that the world, unfortunately, I think a large part of the human population, the world revolves on, in the background, so subconsciously it revolves around size, and men's wanting to be this and women wanting to date, and I think a lot of the world revolves around that, and a lot of money and a lot of advertising and a lot of our economics revolve around this too, secretly, subconsciously, not secretly. Let me know what you think. How do you feel about poor Justin? Also, I'll put a link down below. Other stars that have admitted that they're small. Eminem, who knew? Julio Iglesias and John Mayer. I thought John Mayer was the ultimate. I thought he was like a wicked woman's dude. Apparently, not all the way around. The links will be down below. I'm dying to know what you guys think, especially the women. I think I could already guess, but let me know what you think. And it's not what you think. I think a lot of women will say size doesn't matter. That's what I think. That's what I think a lot of women will say to some extent. I think that's what a lot of you guys will say, or women will say. Let me know what you think. Have a good Friday.